Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another draft class recap video. My name is Kelly Holcomb. Let's begin. Okay, so today's team focus is the Cleveland Browns. They had the 10th overall pick in the draft, and as I've always said at the beginning of these videos, if you are waiting for your team that I haven't done yet, please remember we're doing this in alphabetical order, so we will get to them eventually. Other notes, this is the first time that I've gotten this far in draft class recap videos. Last year I only made it to the Bears and then ended up not finishing that project. But as I have said previously, I'm committed to this. Let's do it. Let's get it done. All right. So, Cleveland Browns. I don't know how the rest of you out there feel in NFL land, but it feels like every offseason we get a similar story and a similar pattern. It feels like they win the offseason all the time and then they never win the regular season. So once again, free agency, they did very well. A couple big splashes. They've got a brand new head coach from Kevin Stefanski from the Minnesota Vikings. They've got a new general manager who seems to be pretty competent so far. Made Austin Hooper the highest paid tight end in the league. And they went out and got Conklin from the Tennessee Titans to refortify the offensive line, and he'll probably slide in and play right tackle. So it on paper it looks like this team is doing well. And the reason I bring this up is because it feels like Groundhog's Day syndrome. You know, the movie with Bill Murray, where every day he wakes up and is exactly the same, but it never ends well for him until the very end. So it kind of feels like again. You know, every offseason it's like, wow, the free agency was really good. Wow, the draft was really good. We'll have to see how this one plays out. But anyway, I digress. Let's talk about the draft. The Cleveland Browns had the 10th overall pick in the draft, and I think leading up to the draft itself, in the mock draft months prior, if you will, that everybody was pretty set in agreement on them taking offensive line. It was offensive line or we riot, right? So having the 10th pick, there was no real sort of a consensus on which offensive lineman they were going to get. So it was going to at least hopefully be one of the big four, and the big four being Andrew Thomas, Tristan Wirfs, Mekhi Becton, and Jedrick Wills. Now, of course, luck was on their side this time, as a lot of teams ahead of them decided to go defense. C.J. Henderson was probably the biggest reason that they were able to get the guy that they got, going 9th overall to the Jaguars. So the Cleveland Browns open up their draft round 1, pick 10 with Jedrick Wills, offensive tackle from Alabama. And he'll slide in and play right tackle. Or, no, I'm sorry. He's going to play left tackle. I'm sorry. Conklin's going to play right tackle. And Jedrick Wills is going to play left tackle. So this is the big piece that they've been missing since Joe Thomas retired. Now, Greg Robinson was okay in the short term, but he was clearly never going to be the solution to the problem that was vacated by the future Hall of Famer that wears number 73. So I'm very excited, and I think Browns fans are very happy that they decided to not do anything crazy. They also are probably very happy that they didn't trade out of the spot, because they probably would have not been able to get him had they gone past 15. Mekhi Becton went on the very next pick, and then Tristan Wirfs went 13 overall to the Bucks, who traded up one spot with the Niners. So you actually had your choice of the three. So Browns fans, in the comments, let me know. And if you're coming from the Facebook page, start the conversation there as well. Are you happy with this selection of Jedrick Wills? Remember, you had your choice. You had Mekhi Becton, you had Tristan Wirfs, and you had your pick between Jedrick Wills. There's a lot of debate about who was the top offensive tackle on the board between those three plus Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas went 4th overall to the Giants. I was a little bit on the hype train of Tristan Wirfs because of how well he tested. But I can understand why you'd be happy with Jedrick Wills. I think he's going to be a solid left tackle for at least 5 years. All right, moving on. We do have other picks to talk about. Round 2, pick 44. Grant Delpit falls to them. Safety from LSU. I think mostly his fall out of the first round has to do with two things. One is medical red flags, and the other one is tackling. So you kind of look at the trends that have been going on. Safeties have been getting picked a lot less in the upper rounds as they have been compared to corners. And that's a lot of what's going on with the vertical attacks and the speed attacks that are being showcased these days by Kansas City, primarily Kansas City. So they need to get stronger and faster on the perimeter, and that leads to a lot of corners being drafted. But still, Grant Delpit is a first-round talent. I think back Prior to the draft, we were talking about him being a top 20, top 15 pick. A lot of people had him cemented to the Dallas Cowboys at 17 months ago. So to get him at pick 44, that's kind of a steal. And speaking of steals, the Browns pull off another one. Round 3, pick 88, Jordan Elliott, defensive tackle from Missouri. I think it might have been a little bit of a character issue that forced him to be in the 3rd round instead of the 2nd, but this is absolutely 2nd round talent, absolutely going to play an integral part in this defense, and this defensive line gets better again. I feel like it's sort of a reoccurring theme with Cleveland that they're always looking for ways to upgrade the defensive line and not waste Myles Garrett's career, who is just a monster. This defensive line is going to be great this year. Jordan Elliott, the reason I'm so high on him is he was a guy I've been looking at throughout this process as a potential replacement for Sheldon Richardson at 3 tech in the Vikings defensive line, because ever since Sheldon Richardson left, it hasn't been smooth sailing. We've lost Linval Joseph. Shamar Stevens is still there. We got our own players. I'll talk about them in their own draft video, but just a way to hype up Jordan Elliott is somebody that I've been looking at as a potential fit for my team, but he's not on my team. Still going to root for the guy. Jordan Elliott is he could go down as one of the top 5 overall great picks of this draft if he pans out, because 88 overall is just fantastic. Next, moving on, still in the 3rd round, pick 97, Jacob Phillips, the linebacker from LSU. Hey, when all else fails, take players from LSU, dip into that SEC talent. Why not? This pick was probably easy to predict, not the player, but the position itself, because you look at their roster after Kirksey and, what was his name, Schobert, were left via free agency. All that was left in the cupboard was Mack Wilson and Taki, so they definitely needed to get more bodies at the position, and it was tough considering the depth of the linebacker class this year is pretty weak, as I've mentioned before. But Jacob Phillips should be a nice addition at 97 overall. Moving on, round 4, 115, Harrison Bryant, tight end, Florida Atlantic. Not the tight end that I had this high, but still in a Kevin Stefanski offense, as Browns fans, you're going to learn this year, you're going to be running 2 tight end sets a lot. And that's one of the reasons that we took Irv Smith Jr. in the 2nd round last year. And at the time when we drafted Irv Smith, I was like, whoa, we have Kyle Rudolph, we have Daniel Morgan, we have this guy, we have that guy. Why are we taking a tight end? But I was okay with it because I was like, wow, Irv Smith Jr. from Alabama, sign me up. He played pretty okay in his rookie year, just to kind of give you what sort of expectations you might want to set with Harrison Bryant. But you're probably going to be seeing a lot of him, and I believe as of this recording, before this recording, they re-signed David Njoku. So you're absolutely going to keep 4 tight ends on this roster, and you're going to use them a lot. You're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets, which is probably why they waited until round 6 to add a receiver, because you're only going to be running a lot of 1 or 2 receivers out there at a time, maybe 3 or 4. So you're probably not going to keep more than 5 receivers on the roster. Moving on. Round 5, pick 160, Nick Harris, center out of Washington. Another guy that I had on the Vikings radar as far as potential offensive line help for them. And it's kind of weird how similar these radars are, with Kevin Stefanski being the new head coach of the Browns, and me as a Vikings fan, you sort of see where the overlap is coming from. So with Kevin Stefanski getting offensive line help for the interior, that's a great pick. Good job in the 5th round. Moving on, round 6, pick 187, Donovan Peoples-Jones, wide receiver from Michigan. This is a steal. It's good value. I mean, he was somebody that was pegged to be probably 3rd round at worst, maybe. I think a lot of it had to do with poor quarterback play at Michigan. Maybe Shea Patterson knocked down his value. Shea Patterson, of course, went undrafted this past weekend. But yeah, Donovan Peoples-Jones has the physical traits to be productive in this league, and I think that they really got a steal. He could easily step in with the right settings, the right mini camp, the right progress to the preseason. He could be a wide receiver 3. It's entirely possible. All right, so that is the Cleveland Browns 2020 NFL Draft in a nutshell. Best pick of the day for them is Jordan Elliott, hands down. I know a lot of people are going to be very, very excited about Jedrick Wills. They're going to be very excited about Grant Delpit. But I think Jordan Elliott, Harrison Bryant, and Donovan Peoples-Jones are going to be even much more integral pieces to the core of the foundation that Kevin Stefanski wants to incorporate in this offense when he takes over this year. I think Nick Chubb is in for a huge year. On the ground, he's got, you know, a lot of similar characteristics to Dalvin Cook, and Dalvin Cook was very successful in a very healthy season for the Minnesota Vikings last year, and I think you're going to see a lot of that again. He'll probably, you know, make another attempt at that rushing title. All right, so those are the Cleveland Browns draft picks for the NFL draft for 2020. Thank you guys very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.